Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be presenting to you today. It's going to be a little bit different. One, because I'm Australian. Two, because it's an AIM-listed company in the UK. And three, because I'll actually be presenting about a project in Portugal, of all places. That's me on the left. I've been in the industry for a very long time, supported by a terrific team of industry executives. I'll be talking to you about lithium today. Our most recent appointment is Martin Steinbild, who's also a veteran, but a veteran of the lithium industry, and he'll be helping lead our charge into the lithium industry globally. We've got a project that we're going to be moving very quickly towards production. We think it will be the first significant producer of lithium in Europe. You heard it first here today. It's a little bit of a European secret, so I'm pleased to have the opportunity to let you in on that secret today. I won't talk about lithium. All I can say is lithium is pretty important for our mobile telephones. It's becoming increasingly important for the vehicle industry, and that's going to really sort of drive demand in future years. Where we are is in northern Portugal. Great jurisdiction. I mean, it's not in the middle of the Andes. Actually has a stable government. We're just south of the border of Spain, and we have around about 1,000 square kilometres under title. Our principal point of focus is the Mina de Barroso mining lease here. Yeah, sorry. We're in the northern part of Portugal. The main point of focus is the Mina de Barroso mining lease here. It's a 5 square kilometre granted mining lease. It's got a term of 30 years, expires in 2036 and can be renewed. You know, there are a lot of people who sort of talk about taking mines into production. The fact of the matter is, one of the great impediments to that is actually getting a mining lease. We've got one, so we're in the business of actually delivering on production, and in fact we're mining there at the moment. Low value product for the ceramics industry, but we intend to go into large scale 1.5 million tonne production to produce a thing called a lithium concentrate, spodumene. Here's the mining lease itself. As I said, it's about 5 square kilometres in area. It covers 2 major shear zones here that feature multiple pegmatite deposits. What's unusual about this is that each one of these pegmatites is spodumene dominant. What's spodumene? It's a lithium mineral. It's actually the mainstream lithium mineral. Virtually 100% of the globally traded lithium concentrates are spodumene. So this is a very big tick in the box. We've been mainly evaluating 3 deposits here: Grondeo, Reservatorio, and Noah. I'm not quite sure who named Grondeo, but they were very prescient, and it is a big beast of a deposit, I'm very pleased to say. We're also evaluating some of the other deposits, and we're looking specifically to go forward into production on Grondeo. That's a picture of Grondeo looking towards the east. We're currently pinpricking this deposit with a whole series of drill holes. We've been drilling this thing since June of last year. We'll probably be continuing to drill it during the balance of this year. We've got 1 RC drill rig on site. We've just added a diamond rig as well. And I'm pleased to say that we're sort of continuing to extend the mineralisation down to the southwest, the west, and up here to the northwest. The good news is it's a very near surface, flat-lying or slightly dipping deposit. You can sort of see some of the lithium mineralisation outcropping here and on the other side. What that means is that it's going to be very easy to mine, be very cheap to mine, and it'll have very sort of superior operating characteristics in terms of return on investment. We've outlined around about 6 million tonnes of material here to date, and we're hopeful of continuing to increase the resource over coming months. You might notice there's a power line that runs through there. Slightly inconvenient because I think we'll have to move it, but more convenient in the sense that it sort of illustrates the infrastructure setting of this place. As I said, it's not in the middle of the Andes. There is good infrastructure, there's power, excellent roads that take us down to the export port just north of Porto. Good water. There's a dual lane expressway about 10 kilometres away from this deposit, so we don't have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. What we're going to do is move this as quickly as we can towards production. This is a very, very simple mining operation. This is conventional mining in a classic sense. It's an open cut. It's drill, blast, crush, grind, DMS, gravity circuit, and froth flotation. They are processing methods that have been used by the mining industry for probably over 100 years. So this is a very conventional mine development, which is probably the closest European analogue to these highly successful Australian hard rock spodumene producers in Australia. Some amount of production comes out of the salars in South America. They've had all sorts of challenges. The real impetus for lithium production globally has been coming out of Australia from hard rock mines, and we've got the European equivalent of this. This is certainly heading towards being the biggest spodumene deposit in Europe, and we hope to be able to achieve that record in the next 2 to 3 months. We've been really looking to sort of cross-fertilise all of that expertise in Australia, particularly on the metallurgy side. So we've been using one of the globe's best metallurgical laboratories, a group called NAGROM in Perth, to do the met test work. The met test work has been coming up flying colours. We're getting recoveries above 80%, and it can produce a 6% lithium spodumene concentrate. That's the stuff that the Chinese want, and that's the sort of stuff that we're going to drive a long-term offtake with Chinese consumers. We're hopeful that there might be emerging European demand. That'll probably be a few years off. But again, we're looking to follow the Australian example of alignments with major Chinese groups who are sort of driving the whole EV impetus globally. China is the major producers of EVs in the world. They've stolen a march on the European car industry. The European car industry is desperately trying to catch up, change their whole model alignment towards EV vehicles. And I think in the perhaps in the medium term will be a very important element in the development of a more sort of continuous lithium value chain here in Europe. It's very exciting to me, and I think it's wonderful that Europe has the opportunity of sort of securing what is effectively a very strategic material that will help sort of drive recover the competitive position of the European car industry. To help sort of guide shareholders and investors, we've established or we've enunciated an 8 to 12 million tonne exploration target, which in aggregate with our existing JORC resource gives us a sort of a tonnage target in the short term of 20 million tonnes. I hope to be able to improve on that, but that certainly will provide the basis of at least a sort of 10-year significant open cut mining operation in Portugal. And as I said, we're doing lots of drilling to sort of continue to advance that resource. Just in terms of what we're doing, I'm extremely confident that we've got a very, very robust mine development here. We're pushing hard towards a investment decision in the early part of next year. We're doing drilling at the moment. We've commissioned Hatch, the internationally respected firm of engineering consultants, to do a scoping study. The results of that study will be out in late April or early May. And assuming they behave and come up with the right results, I think it's that they'll certainly be well positioned to sort of move straight into a feasibility study for us around a mine development. And the objective is to be in production towards the end of 2019, early 2020, which is in mining industry terms a blistering pace. Just to sort of illustrate the investment opportunity and the value opportunity, I always like to sort of point to Alara. Again, I'm just re-emphasise, we're not trying to do anything unusual here. All we're doing is sort of following a very well-tried and proven formula that the Australian listed companies have followed with hard rock lithium in Western Australia. That company started off with the market cap of 11 million Aussie dollars about 3 years ago. The Chinese have just made a takeover offer, I think in excess of $700 million. They're mining around about a 25 million tonne resource. So a really good example of the sort of thing that we can drive towards. This is one of these usual sort of bubble charts, which is sort of course, illustrates the fact that we're relatively undervalued, and more specifically, we tick all the boxes of some of the characteristics. If you're an investor, what are the sort of characteristics do you want to see before you make an investment? We sport virtually every one of those sort of characteristics, in terms of jurisdiction, the material, open cut, good grade, granted mining lease, no infrastructure, excellent jurisdiction with none of the problems that you might have in South America, and really one of the most exciting projects I've had the pleasure of being involved with. We also are involved in a couple of other projects, a copper mine development in Oman, and we also have a joint venture with the global major Rio Tinto on a very significant heavy mineral sands resource in Mozambique. I'm conscious of time running by. Just in terms of some of the headline corporate data, we've got a very solid Middle Eastern shareholder in the Al Marjan Group. They've got just under 30% of the company. And we're sort of really looking to introduce European investors to our register on the back of the very exciting developments that we're undertaking in Portugal. So just in summary, very strong value fundamentals. We're fast-tracking our Mina de Barroso lithium project into production. It's going to be the most significant lithium producer in the short term in Europe. It's high-grade material, will produce an export quality product, and I think there's going to be a lot of Chinese interest in our company during the balance of this year, and I just am delighted to have the opportunity of presenting the project to you here in Switzerland. Thank you.
An excellent presentation.